Africa. Mugabe's body lies in state at Harare Sports Stadium as his family prevails over his burial. At least 10 people die in Mozambique after a stampede occurred at an election rally for President Filipe Nyusi. Plus, Sudan's ruling council and rebel leaders agree on a roadmap for peace talks that are expected to begin in October. Hello and a warm welcome to the program. I'm Teniola Shoboali. We begin today in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where at least 50 people have been killed after a train derailed in the country. Steve Mbikayi, the Minister for Humanitarian Affairs, says the accident happened at around 3 a.m. today in the southeastern province of Tanganyika. The derailment also injured 23 others, and the death toll could climb as people are still trapped underneath the train. Zimbabweans have been paying tribute to their former leader, Robert Mugabe, whose body is lying in state at Rufaro Stadium in Harare. Nearly 40 years ago, Mr. Mugabe raised the flag of independence at this same stadium. His body was flown home on Wednesday from Singapore, where he died last week at the age of 95. Meanwhile, the former leader's family has prevailed over his burial plans, and he will be buried in their rural home. This is seen as a final snub to his former comrades. However, it is not unprecedented. Other national heroes have declined to be buried at the Heroes Acre National Shrine in the capital, Harare, but not one of Robert Mugabe's stature. Earlier, a statement issued by Mr. Mugabe's nephew, Patrick Zuao, says, quote, "We have also observed with shock that the government of Zimbabwe is attempting to coerce us to accept a program for the funeral and burial of the late Robert Gabriel Mugabe, which is contrary to his wishes on how he wished to have his mortal remains interred." End of quote. Another key issue of concern for the family, according to their statement, is that Mr. Mugabe's widow, Grace, should never leave the coffin until the burial. Let's get more on this story from Zimbabwean journalist Nigel Yamatumbu. Thanks for joining us on the program. Nigel, how is the government and former comrades of Robert Mugabe reacting to the news that the former president will be buried in his rural home?
Thank you for having me. There are certainly interesting developments surrounding the burial of former President Robert Mugabe, with his family releasing two public statements today. The first around the treatment they've been receiving from government, that is how they've been rushed to make a decision on where the final resting place for the former president will be. The second, which is quite telling and probably puts the matter to rest, is that the family has decided that the former president will not be buried at the National Heroes Acre in what is a landmark and significant decision that the family has taken, and rather, as the family spokesperson has said, the late former president will be buried in his rural home. This is indeed something that is landmark, as the world, and particularly Zimbabweans, were really looking at this development closely, and we are yet to really see what government will say or pronounce to this.
Yeah, Nigel, in a statement issued by the family, Mr. Mugabe's widow, Grace, should never leave the coffin until the burial. Why is this so? What more can you tell us about that?
President's body will, today, according to the information received, lie in state at his rural home in Zimba today after the Rufaro Stadium proceedings today, where as of the afternoon people were still trickling in drips and drops, and tomorrow it will come back again to the Rufaro Stadium where another ceremony will be held. It will not be lying in state overnight at the stadium. On Friday, it will be at his residence in Harare in preparation for the state funeral that has been slated for Saturday. So that is as far as that is concerned. We have to also see the numbers at the conclusion of tomorrow's proceedings, whether we will see more people coming up on Saturday, which is the big send-off for the former president.
Nigel, I know you were answering. We know Mr. Mugabe's body will lie in state for the next 2 days. But I was actually asking about his wife, Grace Mugabe. And the family statement, it says that Grace should never leave the coffin until the burial. Can you just explain to us why this is so? Just help us understand this a little better.
Yes, the former president's widow, Grace Mugabe, has made it very clear. In fact, it's something that she made clear while his body was still in Singapore, that she would want to be with the body of her husband throughout until the husband is buried. It's not really clear as to her reasons for that. Suffice to say that perhaps she would want to get closure, and she would want to be with the body of her husband, ensuring that it is secure and nothing will happen, and to also ensure that whoever comes to be mourning with her will be where the president body will be. That is her request, and that has been also been officially communicated.
All right, now, Jill, it's going to be a very busy week. We hope to keep speaking to you and you giving us more updates, of course. Now, away from Zimbabwe to South Africa, where some other foreigners worried about their safety are registering to leave the country following the recent flare-up of xenophobic attacks in the country. The city of Ekurhuleni has established 3 shelters to accommodate over 800 foreigners from Malawi, Zimbabwe and Mozambique who were attacked in the Katlehong area a week ago. Channels Television visited one of the shelters where some are hoping they could stay on in safety, while others say they just want to go home.
The D.H. William Hall in Katlehong houses mostly people from Mozambique, and many of those who are here have lost all their belongings as their homes in the informal settlement were set alight. They're trying to go on with life at the center, but it's not a very comfortable existence.
I want to go Maputo, you see, because I don't like, I'm sleepy, sit down, and this city is not fine. Last week I'm come the job, you see, I'm on the road. When I'm coming, they are fire there in my house. Everything, even man for the Mozambique, I don't have nothing, even blue. It's me, only me like this, you see.
First, best, I want to go to home. All to people, please, I want to go to home.
Simon Langer Welder is married to a South African. He's here with his 2 daughters and says he's not ready to go back home, but is left with no choice.
It's not easy to sleep in a place like it looks like a stadium. The condition of sleeping is too bad. Even the kids, it's not like it's a hall where there's not enough mattress for the kids whatsoever. But well, we don't mind about that. The issue that we need to go home to be safe for our society.
The media liaison officer of the city of Ekurhuleni, William Tladi, gives a picture of how hectic it has been in the past week since the refuge centers were opened following the recent xenophobic attacks.
It has been hectic, but we're managing so far because we managed to render all the necessary disaster relief aids. I'm talking blankets, mattresses, food, clothing, everything, and we're working hand in glove with the NGOs. We had the embassies from the different respective countries that actually came in and engaged with Home Affairs, and to start now with the issue of transportation for those who are willing to go back home.
On hand at the center are Home Affairs officials who are registering those who are keen on returning to their countries. Over 300 people have registered to return so far.
Meanwhile, 187 Nigerians evacuated from South Africa are back in the country after being airlifted yesterday from the OR Tambo International Airport in Johannesburg. The returnees arrived at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, at about 9:35 p.m. after an 8-hour delay of their departure. Our aviation correspondent, Bukola Jo Oketumbi, reports.
It's late at night when the Air Peace aircraft rolls onto the airside of the cargo area of the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos. It has been a long day at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport today because the flight earlier scheduled to arrive at 6 p.m. finally touched down at about 9:35 p.m. Quite a number of children, mothers and fathers are on board this flight. It's a mix of emotions for the returnees as they make their way down, with the cabin crew carrying placards reading, "Say no to xenophobia."
Business that I'm doing, everything is crumbled because that Julius they burn. That place they burn those cars is where I'm supplying my product. I produce, I bake, I supply by shops, I supply by talk shops. My business is building now. But how can I do it when every street that I'm going to supply, they are victimizing foreigners?
It's a violent country, I'm telling you. And right now, foreigners are being slaughtered like chicken. And though there is no outreach coming from the West or from the United States, we've not heard anything like them sending a strong message to the government in Pretoria. You know, this is a policy, xenophobia is a policy of South African government to oppress the black Africans.
It's one thing to be back home, but what about the process of reintegration and economic empowerment for those who need it?
There will be a process of reintegration. Most importantly, like Bank of Industry said, there will be empowerment programs, training programs for those who are interested. And we've always had programs of reintegration for all of them, and also counseling.
While government insists that the returnees will find their feet back home, the chairman of Air Peace Airline, who volunteered to carry out this exercise, believes the dignity of every Nigerian is sacrosanct.
I felt that our people were being dehumanized over there, and I thought to restore the dignity of this nation, something must happen. So I decided to move in there to evacuate our citizens, to restore the pride of this country.
As the returnees get their data capture underway, the federal government says it will ensure that those still interested in returning from South Africa will be brought home. Bukola Jo Oketumbi, Channels Television News.
In Mozambique, at least 10 people have died after a stampede occurred at an election rally for President Filipe Nyusi. Reports say the crush at a stadium in the northern city of Nampula happened as people were trying to leave the venue once the president had departed. 85 people were also injured in the incident. Mr. Nyusi is running for a second term in office in general elections scheduled for October the 15th. Sudan's ruling council and rebel leaders have agreed on a roadmap for peace talks that are expected to begin in October and last about 2 months. The council, a transitional government, has made peacemaking with rebels fighting Khartoum one of its main priorities, as it is a key condition for the country's removal from the United States sponsors of terrorism list. The council took over the reins of government in August after military and civilian parties and protest groups signed a 3-year power-sharing deal following months of strife after the removal of longtime President Omar al-Bashir in April. Thousands of people have been killed in Sudan's civil war, including the conflict in the Western Darfur region, where rebels have been fighting against then-President Bashir's government since 2003. Still to come on the program. 6 African nations sign up to a post-Brexit UK trade deal. We'll tell you more in a moment. Stay with us.